Ravens 19, Lions 17, heartbreak city for Dan Campbell's knee biters because Justin Tucker made a 66-yard field goal, the longest field goal in NFL history, and it hit the bottom of the upright and popped up and went in. And when you watch the video from the angle of a Tucker's kick,
hit the crossbar, not the bottom of the upright. That would be weird.
Yeah, with a crossbar. Yeah. Crossbar. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Brinson doesn't have field goal
when you watch it from that angle, you're like, it's like Lions fans are like, yeah. Oh, and then the guys raise their hand. It's just absolute devastation. So, Breech, on a day in which your Bengals down Ryan Wilson Steelers, you're more excited about this kick than anything else, aren't you?
This kick was absolutely insane. I jumped out of my chair. I almost knocked my desk over. I don't have like a giant 7-ton desk like Brinson. It is light enough that I jumped out of my chair.
Baby desk.
I couldn't even believe. I actually thought that the Ravens might try a Hail Mary because 66 yards is bonkers. I mean, the NFL record was 64 yards. You're talking about 2 yards further back than that. And Justin Tucker had been trying 65-yarders in warmups, and he fell short. So to think that he could come out and somehow hit a 66-yarder it just seemed crazy. He goes out, and to add suspense, Brinson, not only does this ball hit the crossbar, but I guess Tucker did an interview with Mike Florio earlier or late Sunday night, and he said when it hit the crossbar, his stomach dropped because he thought it was going to bounce out. He thought it missed. He thought he had enough juice on it, but once it hit the crossbar, he's like, oh, crap. And then somehow it bounced in, which, like, I don't do physics, but if you've ever seen a football bounce off a crossbar, they usually bounce out. I would say about 85% of the time they bounce out. They don't bounce in and hit the net. That thing bounced about 10 yards. So he gets the 66-yard field goal, the longest one in NFL history, after he already beat the Lions 8 years ago with a 61-yard field goal. And now the poor Lions, there have only been 6 game-winning field goals in NFL history of 61 yards or more. The Lions, 3 of them have come against the Lions. 3 out of 6 in NFL history have come against the Lions, which is just a mind-boggling stat. Tom Dempsey hit the 63-yarder. You can see him if you're watching on YouTube. He hit for the Saints, hit it against the Lions, and then Tucker hit a 61-yarder against the Lions in 2013.
By the way, a 63-yarder in 1970 is kind of insane. I mean, every single one of these is from 98 or later, and the two top ones are in Denver.
Do you know
1970, like Dempsey? That's wild, man.
Do you know the Tom Dempsey sort of angle? Like what made him?
What he a toe ball kicker or something?
He had like
he had a half foot.
Yeah, so he had.
So his cleat was kind of like metal. It was like
kicking literally with a brick.
That's right.
Brick on the end of your foot.
It was like if baseball players used metal bats instead of wooden bats.
So that was the angle there. So hey, he used it to his advantage.
Now I've watched this replay 712 times since it happened, and it's amazing every single time. Now I will say, because I'm sure there are at least 3 Lions fans listening, that I would be remiss if we did not talk about the controversy on the play before the Tucker field goal, when maybe a delay of game should have been called. And if that had happened, Tucker would have been trying from 71 yards, and I don't think he's hitting a 71-yarder. So what did you guys think? Do you think the officials blew it? Or do you think, because the back judge is supposed to watch the 0 hit and then see if the ball snapped. So there is a delay before he throws a flag. Do you think that's what happened?
Well, here's the thing, that gives you wiggle room. But if the whole idea is to take the officials' judgment out of it, why not just double zero? It seems like the easiest thing in the world to change. It's not the rule now, so it doesn't matter. But double zero, it's a penalty. You get it up before double zero, it counts. So I don't know
but they always say, you always hear these former officials say, well, it's not actually
change the rules.
Official. It's like it's sort of like spotting the ball. When they spot the ball, it's I agree with you. I think it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like, why don't we figure this out?
Here's the other thing. And I said this today because I'm 1,000 years old. We can put a man on the moon, but we can't figure out where the ball is spotted with some microchip inside the football. You have a bunch of old guys.
Or what if the quarterback didn't get a snap before double zeros? There's a little shockwave goes through the football.
In the league's defense, like sometimes the bodies are piling up. It's hard to see the football. Maybe you put lasers in there, but even those could be off by a few centimeters, which would come, like in a note card game when you're measuring for that first down. But
that's still more accurate than some random guy running from the sidelines.
Oh, hold on, Wilson. What I was going to say though is that the play clock is the simple thing. There's no, it's not that hard to fix that. If it hits 0, it's a flag. That's it. That's all you got to make the rule.
But here's the thing: it sucks for the Lions, and there's no other way. And this, I mean, this sounds crazy to say. This might be their most demoralizing loss, and I don't know their playoff losses. How far you have to go back to find something more demoralizing. But this feels like rock bottom for a team that's sort of been fighting for Dan Campbell. We talk about it every week. Jared Goff is playing much better than we expected. And again, I didn't give Jared Goff credit when he was successful for the Rams, but clearly they moved on from him. Let me ask you this, Breech, because in retrospect, number one, Justin, you guys are huge Hall of Fame guys. Justin Tucker's the first ballot Hall of Famer, no question. Why would you hesitate on that? I mean, he's the best kicker in the history of the NFL. He's 16 for 16 on what's it on the fourth quarter kicks, Breech? What is the stat? Something that they showed a graphic at the end of the game. 16 for 16 on fourth quarter kicks with like less than 2 minutes ago, whatever it was. But
I don't think Adam Vinatieri's
he's better than Adam Vinatieri. It's not even close.
Vinatieri is the first. I think will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think Justin Tucker also will. But since there aren't really any kickers, I think Juan Centerud's the only natural true kicker in the Hall of Fame. It's tough to say how the selection
it all depends on
who
they're on, when they retire and who they have to battle with.
They'll
push a kicker back a year for a good quarterback.
Best player in his position, and it's not even close.
It's super weird that you rip us for Hall of Fame takes, and you're like, Justin Tucker, obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Best player to pick a player, the best player in his position in any other position, their first ballot
Brady.
Hall of Famers. First ballot Hall of Famer. There you go. I don't know how that works.
I mean, I agree with you, Wilson. I think Tucker is a Hall of Famer.
Let me ask Breech one more question.
He's a Hall of Famer. I just don't know if he'll be a first ballot.
Stop it. Let me ask both of you these questions, but Breech can go first because this is his night for several reasons.
Yes.
I'm third this week with the NC State winning, and I've got nothing going for me. I'm actually, in retrospect, I'm surprised that.
Oh, and America won, by the way.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Justin Tucker.
Ryan was cheering for Europe, so triple loss.
I was like, I thought they had a chance to come back. I was surprised that.
Who's? Anyway, go ahead.
Can I please just get this thought in?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
I swear to God, I was surprised in retrospect after seeing Justin Tucker do his thing that he hasn't done this before. Not 66, but even broken the record of 64.
Yeah, he has had a few field goal attempts of over 60 yards. He just hasn't made them. I mean, he had a 61-yarder against the Lions back in 2013, that one I mentioned earlier. But, I mean, there's a reason 61-yarders, field goals over 60 yards don't happen that often, and it's because they're not easy to make. I mean, this was Tucker's 6th career attempt over 60 yards in his second make. So he is now 2 for 6 in his career. His longest attempt before today was 65 yards. It was actually against the Chargers in 2018. You guys probably even remember it if I started pointing it out. It was right before halftime. And he fell about a yard short. I mean, it was it was close, but not, it wasn't good. And he had tried a 64-yarder early in his career that he fell short on. So he's tried them. He's 2 for 6, which is actually really impressive for
33%.
When you're looking at statistics beyond 60 yards. There you go, Wilson. That's your answer.
Okay, I like it.
So to circle back on the Lions thing, I'm a little worried about them, like this having emotional long-term damage.
I was going to say, what does Dan Campbell say in the locker room after
for
this?
the fans or for the team?
For the team, no, because I mean, like they're playing their tails off.
Yep.
And I mean, like DeAndre Swift looks awesome. He had over 100 total yards, 1 touchdown, 7 catches. Hawkinson wasn't very involved in this game, but Jamal Williams played pretty well. Goff has looked good, and the defense is flying around and making plays on that Ravens offense. And I'm just worried they're gonna, like, this is so demoralizing that
that's I agree with you 100%. But again, if Justin Tucker doesn't pull a rabbit out of his beehole there,
his head.
Oh, they have the Bears next weekend. They could beat the Bears.
Well, and you know what? Ryan.
Just give me a second, guys. I've been up since 6 a.m. If Justin Tucker doesn't make that kick, the Lions win, and we're having a completely different conversation. And we're saying, wait a second, the Ravens are terrible. How did they go to Detroit and lose that game? So I think if you're Dan Campbell, that's the moral victory conversation you give, but you've now given that conversation 3 weeks in a row.
Right. And that's the thing. Has anyone had more gut-punching losses than the Lions? I mean, they came back from 41-17 against the 49ers, cut to 41-33, had the ball, chance to tie, didn't do it. They were leading the Packers 17-14 at halftime. They lose 35-17. And now in this game, they're losing 13-0. They come back to take the 16-14 lead. And these are demoralizing. How many demoralizing losses can you handle before you just give up on the season?
Agreed completely. I will say this from a excuse me, from a fantasy angle and a gambling angle, I think there's something to take away from this. So now let's make sure this carries through next week and they don't just give up completely. But Lions second half bets, and they would have covered against the Packers if it hadn't started pouring down rain in Green Bay. And DeAndre Swift over receptions and receiving yards look like very good bets because that team is going to be trailing, and Goff loves dumping off to DeAndre Swift. So that is something to monitor moving forward. Now to the main course.
Hold on. Look quickly. Debo did a poll with the comments.
You can't talk about the freaking Lions anymore. Is this where?
Look at that.
Just supposed to talk for.
No, this is the Debo put the poll in Slack. It says it's Justin Tucker, Hall of Famer. He asked the comment.
He's definitely a Hall of Famer.
100%.
First ballot.
You just got dunked on by every single comment.
I said he wasn't the first ballot.
No, I didn't hear that. What's next?